Racing Volume 13. It's the first shoot in a long time. We've been on hiatus for the last month, but we recouped. We're back. This is the mini stock edition. I'm your host, as always, Spencer Lewis. To my left, I have the 2013 Sunset Speedway mini stock track champion, Warren Paxton. And to my right, you want to talk about being on hiatus? This guy's been away for a little while. He's coming back in 2014. Former mini stock standout, multi-time feature winner at Sunset Speedway, Dan the Britt. A special shout out to the Instant Classic Andy Camerath behind the camera for the first time today. Crystal Doucette, unfortunately, not able to be with us, so we're farming out the production duties to Andy Camerath. We'll see how that works out. So we were talking off camera about how we wanted to lead this off, and let's just sum up the 2013 season for the mini stock division. We'll start at Sunset. You picked up the championship at Sunset, 6 feature wins. I feel as though the Sunset mini stock division, the last couple of seasons, had a bit of a dip in talent. It came back in a big way in 2013. This was a huge season for the Sunset Speedway mini stock class.
Yeah, it was. It was a good season. Started out maybe it started great for us, but we did have a lot of new cars, a lot of new entries in. But definitely had a lot of solid talent as well. A few drivers like Ben Mellenhorst coming back over from Barrie. Eric York coming off the championship the previous year. The other thing that was kind of cool was we also, because of the home and home, got to get out and do some good racing with the Sauble cars as well. And we also, on the first night, we had some Peterborough cars out. So we really got, even without leaving Sunset and going and racing anywhere else, we got the opportunity to race against some of the top tier stuff all over the place. And it was a great year. Like, we really had a lot of fun, I thought.
Dan, I know that you weren't able to be out racing with these guys during the regular season. You made it up for the Velocity, you made it up for the Auto Coast Classic, but you're at the Speedway more often than not. How do you evaluate the talent level in 2013 at Sunset and beyond?
Watching this year, got out for a few nights. I got to really watch from the outside looking in. Man, it's anybody's race out there this year. I mean, there was Brandon McFerrin came through. We had Billy Schwarzenberg, Warren Paxton, Billy Mellenhorst, and Ben. And like, it was anybody's night. To be honest with you, if they were in the right place at the right time, that was it. So there is nobody that you could really bet on in any one night.
I think that this year sort of introduced a lot of breakout stars across the province. I mean, Brandon McFerrin is as good of a young driver as we've had in the mini stock division in a long time. He's coming out of the karting division, the Waterloo Regional Kart Club at Flamborough Speedway. His father raced mini stocks. Brandon got into the mini stock, and he made a huge impact this year. You want to go up to Barrie Speedway. Justin Holmes had a monster season for the second straight year at Barrie. I mean, once that young man decides to move up, he's going to be ready, whether it's Thunder Car or late model. When you watch him in a mini stock, very smooth, very soft hands. The Farnborough racing team out of Peterborough, for a group of fellas that sort of came out of nowhere. I mean, I had never heard of them prior to 2012. They came, completely off the radar. They won everything at Peterborough Speedway this year. They were fast on the road. There were a lot of guys that sort of poked their head out and really grabbed some headlines, and it just shows you that the mini stock division is alive and well heading into 2014.
For sure, yeah. I mean, like Dan was saying, it was anybody's race, any night, at just about any speedway you went to. And that's one of the great things about mini stock racing is, there's a lot of variants, a lot of different equipment out there, a lot of different drivers, different driving styles, drivers from different backgrounds. You talked about the go-karts with guys like Brandon McFerrin. So I mean, yeah, personally, I didn't race go-karts. I kind of just got my start, bought the mini stock, and started going that way. But all different angles playing on that front. Really pretty impressive though. I mean, those Farnborough guys, like you said, I didn't know really about them at all until, I guess it would have been about 2012, yeah, like you said. And I mean, there's, I think, 3 or 4 of them now, and they are, like, I mean, everywhere that they showed up at Sunset, they were fast there. You go to Peterborough, and I mean, they own that place. They're flying there. They've got that place figured out for sure. Would have liked to play with them a little bit more at Sunset. They were only there one time. But I look forward to racing against those guys. I had a good chat with them when we were at Peterborough, and they seem like, they're reasonable guys, and I mean, obviously they can race.
Ryan Babin picked up the 2013 Autumn Coast Classic Championship, of course, representing the Farnborough racing team. I think it's 5 straight years now, or 4 straight years that the Peterborough car has won it. Feist has it twice. I think Tyler Junkin had it 1 year.
And there was a Butler win somewhere.
Butler was in there, and then Jariga had one. So there's been a long line of Peterborough cars winning it. But my point is that Ryan Babin might have been sort of, I think Chris Molders and Ryan Oosterholt were able to sort of come out in the stat and make a name for themselves with the Farmer racing team.
For sure.
Ryan Babin was sort of the odd man out, at least away from Peterborough. I don't think anybody was really checking for him at the Autumn Close Classic. He came out of nowhere. He worked for that win. I mean, without question, Babin was the fastest car on the racetrack at the Autumn Close Classic. Did that surprise you at all when he came away with the win?
It did a little bit. I was just rocking along. I figured I was doing all right at Peterborough, and all of a sudden they come roaring up beside me, and I'm just watching them go by, and I'm like, wow, those guys are fast. Like, it's so cool. It's good to see a guy like that come through and get the win. Like you said, the other guys get a lot of fame in that, and he comes out, gets it, and they're a bunch of nice guys. I wouldn't want to see anybody else in it, really, other than myself. But
You're a little bit biased.
yeah, a little bit biased there. You know what a good group of guys, nice to talk to, and they're good at what they do. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, obviously they've done their homework.
Yeah.
The mini stock division is unique in the sense that the rules across the province, for the most part, allow for cars from everywhere to sort of convene at one place at one time and all run together. You don't really get that. Less and less you get that with the Thunder car or the super stock division. The limited lights and the pro lights, obviously the way they've split it off, it's not a universal rule book. The mini stocks allow a guy from Flamborough, Peterborough, Capital City, Barrie, Sunset, you can all sort of go to one place and sort of see who's the best around. With the Farm Bros being as good as they were this year at the Classic, and Babin coming away with his first win at the Crown Jewel, does that sort of show the rest of Ontario that Peterborough Speedway has the fastest mini stocks in the province?
You can't argue with it, right? I mean, clearly they're fast. Like Dan said, we were out there, we thought, okay, we're working pretty good. Or we didn't really know where our times lined up, but you go out and practice, you get in a group of cars, and if you can run with them or pass a few cars, okay, we think we're doing all right. And then we did have a stopwatch on our car, we put it on them, and it was like, wow, they're in another area code. I mean, they were fast. But at the same time, as the weekend went on, we learned a lot about making our car work a little bit better. I think Dan would probably say the same. We didn't stop changing things all weekend. So it's that same old adage. I mean, if you run the same speedway week after week after week, chances are you're going to have a pretty good handle on how to get your car set up there. They said the same thing to me. I was having a discussion with them about just that, and they said, yeah, but you get around Sunset way better. I said, yeah, you guys were faster too. They said, yeah, our motors made us fast, but you turn Sunset well, right? So back and forth. Clearly, yeah, they're fast, and they would be fast when they ran at Sunset. If they got to do some homework there, just like us doing some homework at Peterborough, I think it'd be some pretty wicked racing.
Dan, do you agree? I mean, is Peterborough at the sort of the top of the heap right now in terms of the mini stock division?
They seem to have a lot of the faster cars, I'll give them that. I think the rule package is a little more open than everyone else. They run a little, like their camber rules are a little different than ours. We're a little restricted in that way. But I mean, man, they got the cars that just fly, and like watching the opening night there at Sunset, and they were just humming along, just unbelievably fast. And I think Sunset's a little behind in the rules, according to everyone else. Like, you got to watch everyone else. We saw it at Velocity. Those neons at Sunset are killer too. So, it would have been interesting to see more Peterborough guys show up for the Sunset Velocity weekend, just to see how they stack up with the neons, because the neons aren't so good at Peterborough.
And the neons, of course, we're talking about Mike Gatliff, 2013 Barrie champion. Charlie Smith, who was the 2012 Barrie champion. Yeah. Will Davies, who I think was the 2011 Barrie champion.
And we didn't see Brad Martin at Peterborough, but he was at the Velocity.
That's true.
And obviously he was flying there, right?
And that's his second year, I think.
Yeah, and Brad Martin hadn't run that car all year. He ran with the Lucas Oil Sportsman Cup.
Right.
Didn't touch his neon until the Velocity came out, pulled it out of the barn, put some fuel in it, brought it to Sunset, and he was just rolling around that place.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, the Velocity is a good chance for you to, and as is Autumn Colors is the same sort of thing, but you get a chance to kind of see how the different rule books shake out. There's always that difference in that home track advantage and being set up and knowing your way around the place, but when you get cars from other tracks coming into your own and they're getting around better than you are, it's like, okay, well, maybe there's some, some inconsistencies in the rule book, but they're fairly close overall. What I'm finding is those top tier cars are figuring out the differences, and they're finding the holes, or I shouldn't say holes, but they're finding the areas in their rulebook that they can take advantage of, and they're working them right to the limit. And that's where they're making speed up.
It's incredible to sort of get a bit of a history lesson and see how the ebb and flow of the mini stock division and who's on top. So you can go back to Barrie Speedway with the Extreme team when they have Dave Glaze and Dave Doucette and Sean Murray, easy there, killer. They were at the top of the heap. They were the best anywhere in the province. Capital City had their time with the Kavanaughs, the Muskers, the Smiths. They were the best. Kawartha with Jason Jariga and the Maroney team. Mike Wallace. Sunset had their time when it was classic Colt Carconi and Hollywood Matt Henderson. And now it's Peterborough with the Farnborough Racing team, with Tyler Junkin when he shows up. I don't know if Justin Beerworth is still out there as a regular, but
I don't know if he is or not. I didn't really hear anything about it.
If you're watching this interview, Justin Beerworth, come back to the mini stock division because he was incredibly.
Great run with him last year.
He was so fast.
Yeah.
It's just so Peterborough's on top right now. For all we know, next year, Barrie might be back on top. If Getliff and Davies and Smith go to the Classic and they can have a good weekend, you never know.
Yeah, that's right. Will had some real tough goal this year out at Peterborough, and I know they were fighting that car all weekend. And the Neons maybe didn't look as good there, but I think same old deal. If they get a few days, or not even a few days, a few hours to really work on their cars out there, we'd be looking at a totally different story.
Now you mentioned that Sunset's rule book is a little bit behind where everybody else is going. What are some quick fixes that that Sunset can do to the Sunset rulebook to sort of bring themselves up to the rest of the province?
Ideally, what I saw from the Peterborough cars was a huge one, and not even just Peterborough. I think the Sauble cars too. Camber rules, the rear tires. They got a lot more in them than what we're allowed, which is, hey, it's in the rulebook, go for it. It would give us a little bit easier time, even at our own track, with just a little bit more in it. I think our weight rule just came down last year. It's a little more on par now, which is nice, frees us up a little. I think a bit of work needs to be done with the double cams. I don't think they have the weight rule quite right on that yet. I think they need to be lightened up just a little, judging from the other cars from the other tracks. I just don't think it's an advantage right now to run a double cam at Sunset. Like, we're running the single cam at 300 pounds lighter, and look at like Warren and a few other guys up there running top, like easy.
The only driver, I shouldn't say the one driver that sticks in my mind that I did talk about that ran a dual cam at Sunset this year was Stephen Boulanger.
Yeah.
One rookie of the year, do you know?
Yeah, one rookie of the year. So, I mean, clearly he had a real good breakout year. But he said with the weight of the car, he says it's so hard to get it to turn.
Yeah.
I haven't experimented with that, so I really can't speak to it. There's probably some work that could be done there to maybe bring it a little bit closer. I mean, 300 pounds is a lot of extra weight to tow around.
As it stands right now, I think Peterborough, the Peterborough cars are really the only roster that has sort of embraced the twin cam. I mean, you can run a twin cam car at Barrie, but I don't think there are many, if any, guys up there running them. All the Neons up there are single cam from what I can tell.
Yeah.
Capital City, I believe, has some twin cam cars. Don't quote me on it. I'm not sure. Flamborough certainly does not.
Kyle Baker runs a dual cam.
Yeah.
Similar engine configuration to what we run, but he runs a dual cam. Realistically, how much different is it? Well, there's so many variations of the dual cam motors compared to the same thing. I mean, you could talk different variables about that all day long, but there are more options. I think what we're really getting towards is, and this is speaking more on the Honda side of things, but and even just through the division, there's a lot of cars that they're getting dated. I mean, trying to find parts for an 88 to 91 car is not as easy as it was 5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago when Colt Carconi was racing these cars, right? That type of thing. So as that stuff starts to dry up, the rule book then needs to migrate forward so that we have the ability to still access pieces when something goes wrong.
And I think that's where the neon thing's coming from. I'm seeing more and more neons come out, and I think it's just the availability of the cars
Yeah.
and parts and whatnot. Like you're absolutely right on that.
I think the only drawback to the neons, it seems, is that they can't take a beating as well as some of these other cars can.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen quite a few cars take some pretty hard licks, but I think a lot of that too comes down to the way that it's built. But when you take an impact on the wheel, yeah, that's a characteristic of the car, right? You know, if it's on a bumper or on a door or something like that, well, chances are that's how the car was prepared. But when you're talking about taking an impact on the wheel, yeah, maybe the neons are a little bit weaker. You know, if they take I seem to recall one getting a shot in the rear wheel, and it just like the whole rear axle suddenly just kind of, right?
Well, in my 5 years of racing, the only 2 cars that I've seen a right front hub actually break off were neon.
True. Yeah.
One happened at Velocity weekend when McFerrin went up and over
when Charlie Smith lost it. That's right.
broke that wheel. Now whether it got hit or not, I don't know. But even a few years before that, somebody brought a neon for an invitational. Same thing. The wheel come off at a Ford or
Yeah.
come up in the fence. And, oof,
See,
bad news.
the Ford Mustangs are a lot less popular now than they were when the division started. But I think it's hard to find a 4-cylinder car that can take a licking quite like a lot of those Ford Mustangs could.
Yeah, they're pretty well built. I mean, they're actually a full frame car, right? When you compare that to a Neon or to a Civic or something like that, yeah, they're not on the same level. It's got a lot more structure to it, a lot more to work off of, so it can take an impact there. But I mean, I've been pretty clean for the last 5 years, but we've had our share of pretty good impacts as well. We went up on the wall and turned one at Sunset and everything else, and it was a lot of work, but we managed to get it back and get it straight, so it's not all bad.
The Nissan 240s are sort of the flavor of the year now. They're what everybody wants to go and buy. I don't know how many could possibly be left now. All these the ones that don't have a speck of rust on them have been turned into tuner cars. You know, you go to car shows and
Drift
they're
cars.
very popular there. The ones that are remotely capable of being a mini stock have already been turned into a mini stock. So I don't know if the supply of Nissans in Southern Ontario is going to be depleted anytime soon, but are there any other cars out there now that can sort of surpass what the Nissan 240s offer right out of the box? Because it was the Mustangs were at the top of the division, then everybody had to have a Civic, then the CRXs were incredibly popular,
Yeah.
the Neons were real fast, and now everyone wants a Nissan 240 SX. Is that the way the division's going to stay for the foreseeable future?
It's hard to say. It's possible. Other than maybe even now because the rule packages are starting to open up across all the tracks. The Preludes are coming out. You got a 2.2, 2.3 motor in that. I don't know. We might even see. I've seen a return of the Mustangs coming to Sunset too. I mean, where they're getting them, I don't know. But
I think Brandon McFerrin and Billy
Yeah,
Schwartz
exactly. They make a pretty good case.
They
for
have
it, right?
single-handedly revived the Mustang's popularity
Absolutely.
across the mini stock division.
and
for sure.
even that Peterborough Chance Isherwood was running.
Yeah, really well.
extremely fast.
That was Ben Wool's car, 71.
Yes,
right?
it was. Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, God, you don't know. You don't know until you see it.
To me, that tells me that the rules have to be pretty close if you've got that many different makes, models of cars that can all run generally within the same, speed range. It would be kind of cool, and I'm not going to be the guy to do it, but it would be neat to just be that person that goes out and starts with a car right off the street, something that nobody else has got out on the racetrack, and do that experiment. And hey, if you can make it work, there may be something that's in that rule book that you can work to your advantage with that car. It's something that we haven't discovered yet. So it's kind of cool to think about what might be coming, but I really have no idea. I wouldn't even want to guess at what the next thing is that's coming because there's just too many options out there.
I went crazy when Rob Hoskins brought his Volkswagen Beetle out. I was like, man, you can make a mini stock out of that? I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. It's the only one of the products, as far as I know. There's one that races on the Dirt at Oshweekend in a bomber class, which I guess is like a 4-fun class. Hoskins has one at Flamborough, and that's about it. I think Volkswagens, you really need to know the car intimately to be able to make it work as a race car.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair.
More so than some of these. I mean, the Hondas you can kind of learn as you go. I think the Volkswagens are pretty specific the way you got to set them up, the way what you have to do to get them up to speed. John Van Dyke is really, really fast at a Sauble.
And then there was Gary Jones that actually...
Gary Jones is very good. Bruce Beacock, if you want to go back a couple of years in Sauble, really sort of was very good. Andy Camrat's nodding his head, an old Sauble boy there. Bruce Beacock was very good. Matt Mulholland, for those that don't know, if you know Matt Mulholland, the Situation Current Superstock standout. He's on the injured reserve list right now, but he's coming back real soon.
Yeah.
Phenomenal Superstock driver, but his first race car was a Volkswagen Rabbit out of Sauble Speedway. He was fast too. I think John Van Dyke still has that car that he bought from Matt Mulholland. He uses it as a backup car, so they can take a beating. The Volkswagen can stay around for a long time if you know how to take care of them. Moving forward, we talked about the Farm Bro team. What we haven't talked about is the Spira Racing fleet, which is Jake Watson, who's now only 13 years of age, Sam Shaw, Scott Simmons, and now, of course, Billy Schwarzenberg. Schwarzenberg, he of the 12 feature wins at 4 tracks across the province in 2013. Is the Spira team, the Spira fleet, the new dynasty team in the province? I mean, after the Extreme team, after
Epic Motorsports.
Epic Motorsports, which was Cole Carconi and Matt Henderson, the Extreme team out of Barrie, the Maroney Racing fleet out of Kawartha, which was Shannon Maroney, Hart Maroney, Chu Maroney, Jason Juriga, and Mike Wallace. You know, they were the dynasty. They were the team. Is the Spira fleet that new unit? They can unload at any track in the province and then go right to the top of the speed charts.
They've got good equipment. And talented drivers. I mean, I haven't had a chance to race as much with Jake and with Scott, but I've raced. Sam ran quite a few races at Sunset this year, and of course Billy did as well. He ran the home and home at Sauble as well. They bring good stuff, and they're always contenders. They're always going to be in the top 10, flirting with that top 5, and marching to the front. I know Ken puts a lot of effort into their program, and they all really work well as a team.
Yeah, you get to put the Farm Bro Racing team alongside the Spira fleet. You put them in a street fight. I mean, who's coming out at the end?
In a street fight. I don't know about a street fight, but I know on the track it's going to be a good race to watch. Definitely one I would want to watch. I wouldn't want to be in it because I don't think I might see it all from the back, but there's a lot of good talent there. Anything I've seen with Spira on the back of the car has always been a really good car at whatever track it runs at. Really good drivers. They're great to race with because you'll learn something from them, and they'll give you the same respect that you give them. And it's been that way for a while. And who's going to come out on top? I can't really say. I don't know. That'd be a tough fight.
The more we talk about rules advancement, we talk about these dynasty teams that have these cars that seem unbeatable at times. I have to ask, are we getting to the point where we're getting further and further and further away from this being the entry-level class that it's supposed to be?
Well, as far as being a contender, it would be very difficult, at least my assessment is, it would be very difficult to decide tomorrow, I'm going to go mini stock racing and go and buy a car off the street and build it and take it out and be competitive. There is just too much research done and too much good talent and good equipment out there for you to just walk in and be the top dog. I'm not saying it can't be done, but if that's your plan, you got your work cut out for you. I don't know. Some of the tracks have the 4 Fun still available, so I guess that would be their entry level, right? We don't have that at Sunset. I guess they call them pure stocks. Is that what
they're pure stocks at Flamer, but they're 4 Funs. That's really what the division is.
Yeah, and then Peterborough runs them as well.
Peterborough's 4 Fun class, it's a little bit different because the 4 Fun class, the way it was always maintained at Sunset. Sunset had, I think, 40 of them before they were killed. They were removed from the schedule from a couple promoters ago. They were up around 40 cars, and they have to be an automatic car, very little adjustability other than what you could do stock, so stock camber. I mean, you could play with it a little bit. Rollover bar and a seat back bar, and that was about it. A lot of guys went to the full cages. They were probably smart to do so. That's all you needed for 4 Fun. At Peterborough, a lot of these guys have full cages, 5-speed transmissions, but you can't adjust anything. So it's almost
And
in
they
between a
probably, I
400
imagine,
mini stock then.
I don't know, but they probably give a weight break to the automatic transmissions or something like that.
I would imagine so. I don't really know what the 4-foot rules are at
To be
Peterborough.
honest, I haven't really followed it that closely either, but it's the entry level division, especially if you're in one of those areas where your home track is gonna be a track that doesn't have a 4-fun or a pure stock division. And we saw lots of new drivers in the last few years. You know, I've raced for 5 years now, lots of new drivers that have come in, some with cars that they bought, others with cars that they've prepared all on their own. And some, you know, they have their struggles, but they learn a lot. I just finished the second car now. I bought my first car, not built. Built the second one, yes, I had a bit of a template to work from, but we learned a ton. And I really think there's huge value in that. The guys or girls that go out there and actually start from the ground up, build their own car, they're going to know everything about it. When something goes wrong, they know how to work on the car. They know everything there is to know about it because they've been through every nut and bolt and every little piece right from the beginning.
Now, when we talk about fellas that built their own car the first time out of the box, that was you, right? The car number 41 at Sunset Speedway. How did you get your start in racing? Because you built your Honda right from the ground up.
Yeah, just had an extra car lying around, and the old man said, "Here, you want to build a race car?" Sure, why not? That'll be easy and fun. So a year and a half later, when we finished it, I finally got it out on the track and realized that, you know, it's not just turning left and stuffing it in the gas, and it's a lot different than what you think it is. It's a lot of work.
Now, your brother came before you.
Yeah.
Did you have a hand in building that car as well?
No, he built that all himself. And really, like, he had raced for probably half a season before I even went to watch a race. And then as soon as I watched it, I was like, wow, that looks like fun.
Yeah.
And so crewed on his team for a while, and then we built the other one, and then spent a lot more money from there, and kind of ruined my summers for 4 years. So.
Now, what came of Ken Britt's Honda Civic? Because it won a lot of races in its own right. Is it still kicking around somewhere? Did it get sold? Or?
It's sitting in the backyard there, up on blocks. Not much to it anymore. It got wrecked pretty hard the 1 year. He was going for the championship there, and then he had to borrow Matt Henderson's car for the end of the season for the last like 4 races. But it's still there. We still hog pieces off it every once in a while if we need something.
It's safe to say that it's probably never going to see a racetrack again?
Pretty much, it's not going to see a racetrack. The cage might, but I don't think the rest of the car will.
So, is it an entry? You kind of skirted around my question.
You're right.
Is it entry level division? Yes, but no. I mean, you mentioned the guys are coming out and having good runs, but when was the last time? And feel free to correct me here, but when was the last time we saw a young driver break into the mini stock division that wasn't a second generation competitor? Justin Holmes at Barrie, second generation. Jake Watson at Flamborough, second generation. Sam Shaw, second generation. Well, Schwarzenberg wasn't second generation. His older brother started before him, though.
Okay.
And then Billy was in the car. So I guess you could say Billy Schwarzenberg.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was aligned with Spire Fire Protection before.
In the beginning, yeah,
I don't really know.
I only really heard of Billy in the last 2, maybe 3 years.
When he started branching out of Flamborough. He was on my radar for a while, but if you're going to race at Flamborough Speedway, you're gonna have a hard time getting out of Dave Bailey's shadow. Because
Sure.
Dave Bailey is
You know what, that's a name that hasn't come up, and I followed him around for a long time out of Peterborough. But there's another guy who's raced this division a long time. A couple different cars too. He raced a Mustang, now he's in a 240. So, I mean, he's actually played a couple of totally different, yeah, they're both rear-wheel drive, but he's on 2 different ends of the spectrum with Mustang's clearly much, much different than a 240.
So maybe what I'm asking is having these guys that sort of hover around the top of the division and win a lot of races and win a lot of championships and don't. I understand that these guys are saying they don't have the means to move up. I get it. I totally understand. It's all a money game, and it's a big jump from mini stock to Thunder car.
Oh yeah.
That's a huge jump. But is having these guys, I'll say like Dave Bailey, but Dave Bailey's moving to Thunder car next year. Dave Bailey's announcing we'll be running full-time at Flamborough next year in a Thunder car. Dave Bailey, Doug Butler's a name to come to mind that he's absolutely won everything in mini stock and continues to do so.
Absolutely.
Billy Schwarzenberg is hard to beat. He's been around a long time. I'm sure there are more names that I could think of if I really Casey Kavanaugh, Capital City, been around forever. Having these guys at the top of the division without them moving up, does it hurt the class in the end because it makes it that much harder for young guys breaking in, or is that just something you have to deal with and it makes you a better driver if you're a young guy or young girl building a mini stock in Ontario?
I think there's a lot of drivers out there that actually, of the more experienced drivers, that kind of embrace the new talent coming in, and so it doesn't necessarily take away from them, it actually helps develop them as new drivers. I've gone over a number of times, I've helped other drivers out, whether it's giving them parts or a little bit of advice or even working on their cars. If it's something I can help with and I'm able to, I'm happy to do so. And I know I've seen a number of drivers do the same thing, and that's what it's all about. We go to the racetrack to have fun, and we make some friends doing it, right? So it's nice that we can kind of pass that off with each other, and okay, well, you need this, I need this, whatever, help you out. I'll need some help one day too. So it kind of works good that way. But as an entry level, is it taking away from it? It makes it pretty hard on somebody new coming in to have that. For somebody to come in and really be, to light the world on fire, pardon the expression, but to come in and be top of the drawer right away, tough shoes to fill when you look at what you're coming in against. Every track, you talked about Dave Bailey down at Flamborough and Schwarzenberg. You've got the Farnborough guys with Oosterholt, Babin, Mulders out at Peterborough. You've got Eric York with a championship. You've got the Melon Horse at Sunset. You go to Barrie. You've got Getliff, who's now sitting on a championship. You've got Butler, Sobel. You've got Kevin Bridge. You've got Kevin Potts. Corey Young does some racing there. He's also down at Barney, won a championship there. So
Corey Young won 11 races at Barney. I think I just want to throw 11 races in a year at Barney for Corey Young. That's
had some great races, and he wasn't a one-hit wonder because he went out to Delaware, had an awesome race with Bailey and Schwarzenberg out there. I guess what I'm saying is, if you look at that landscape, there are a lot of good cars. It doesn't matter where you go. There's at least 3 cars that I can think of before I jump in the car to drive anywhere that are going to be top-tier cars before I even show up. So coming into the bottom, or I shouldn't say the bottom, coming fresh into that division as a new driver, it makes it tough to look at as an entry-level division because you're up against some good stuff and some good experience.
Dan, what do you say? Does it dissuade younger drivers? Is it hard to get more guys and girls coming in through the front door to help build the class up when you've got the more experienced veterans to sort of hang around the top of the division, winning the races and the championships?
It's always nice to come in if you think you got a chance. But on that note, you can't make yourself any better if you're not racing with better people. Like the stronger they are, you pick up things from them, you race with them. And then you notice each week thereafter he didn't, maybe if we're talking Butler, he didn't get quite as far away from you this week, so you've done something right. Or, you made him work a little harder to get by it. You're learning all the time. So it doesn't necessarily, it's frustrating when you're that extra position back.
Yeah, but it seems like you can never get there.
You just never get there. But on the same note, you strive to be better because you just want to beat them. You're like, I just want to finish in front of them for once. And then, you try something different, you do something different driving-wise, you just try to make it happen, and then you pick up stuff from it, and it makes you a better driver.
Okay, so now's the part of the episode, the interview, where we get to name drop some people. And if you say the right name, I'm sure you're going to pick up a new best friend. We'll start with, who's the most underrated mini stock driver in the province? And why? You got to show your work. This is a math test. Tell me why.
Underrated.
Underrated. Because there's a lot. Think about it. There's a lot of underrated guys and girls in this province that are running the mini stock division right now. Who doesn't get as much love as they probably should?
I'm trying to, spread it, make sure I'm not focusing too tight here, home track or anything like that. Who's not getting what they deserve?
What do you say? Dan Britt. Who's the most underrated mini stock driver in the province?
Underrated. Oh, man.
Let's say Kevin Bridge. Let's start. That's my pick is Kevin Bridge. Sobel guy, won a lot of races. I don't think he has a championship. Does he have a championship? I don't think he does. He's got a lot of race wins. Andy Cameron's grimacing. I don't think he does. If he does, I apologize.
Did he win a championship last year? Who won the Sobel championship last year?
Rudrock.
Chris Rudrock.
Rudrock won it last. So I don't think. I think Kevin Britt has a lot of feature wins.
Yeah, you know what?
He's fast anywhere he goes, but he's one guy that when you're loading up and going to the Invitational, he's just not at the forefront of your brain thinking, oh, he's one guy that I'm going to have to beat, but he absolutely is.
You asked me in an interview before the Home and Home series who I was most concerned about heading up to Solomon. And that was the name that I put down as the driver I was most concerned about running with. Because I've raced against him a few times, I've watched him race. Good equipment, great driver, and a nice guy. I shot the breeze with him at the Velocity for like a couple hours, helped me with a couple of things, he helped me. Really nice guy, and yeah, one hell of a driver.
Having a kid this year, so he's not racing.
Yeah.
Not racing. We congratulations to Kevin and Mrs. Britt,
Absolutely.
but not racing full time next year. We'll probably see him around at the Crown Jewels and the Invitationals more than we did in
Hope so.
2013. So that's good. Unfortunately for Sauble fans, they won't see him every Saturday. Dan, most underrated driver. Now you can't say Kevin Britt, so you better pick a different one.
Yeah, took that one off the table.
Underrated.
You're lucky we don't have a buzzer. We'd buzz you out right now.
Buzz away?
We don't edit this, so you gotta.
Oh, man.
You don't have one underrated driver that doesn't get enough love.
I don't know, I was watching a lot this year. Mellenhorst this year was having a lot of, like, he was always just right behind, but a really good driver, really good guy.
I think Ben Mellenhorst was the fastest car on the Sunset roster that didn't win a feature all year.
Oh, for sure.
And
He was always right there.
Yeah, he was just waiting for the one screw up.
I think at least twice he had a race
Yeah.
sewn up and had a bobble or a hiccup or he got a little bit loose and someone was able to skirt underneath him. So Kevin Britt and Ben Mellenhorst are two very good options for most underrated driver. Who's one driver in the mini stock division that, you know, if we had a Thunder car team or a late model team with an open seat that you would love to see move up and just to see what they could do in a bigger, faster, heavier car?
Okay, so we're gonna take Dave Bailey off the table.
Take Bailey off the table, he's already moving up.
Right, so somebody that I'd like to see move up into that
Pluck
next
him out of the
level.
mini stock division, put him into either a Thunder car or a limited late model, and see what they can do against the rest of the province.
I'm telling you, I'd like to see Brandon McFerrin do it. He can wheel a car.
Yeah.
And I've been sideways with him. We've had each other sideways, but he's got good racing sense. He got me sideways one night, gives you the room to straighten it out. Races you hard. How many times have we raced door to door?
You guys put on classics.
Back and
Right.
forth, back and
Awesome races. And I'm telling you, much like Dan and I did that for years as well. I didn't get to do it as much this year, but we'd run side by side. I would do that with that boy young man.
He's a boy, he's 14 years old.
Young man, I'd race like that with him every weekend of the year. So the way that he can pilot that car and the level of maturity that I see in him, I think he's definitely got a bright future ahead of him. I would like to see him move up.
I think his father Rob's did a good job with his development from go-karts to, he had a short stint in J cars before going to the mini stocks. And he's moving into, I don't know if it's going to be super stock next or limited late model, I'm sure. Ron McFerrin's got some plans for Brandon.
For sure.
He's doing a really good job with his development. Brandon's running for a championship at Sunset in 2014,
Yeah.
and I would say he's probably a favorite heading into the early season.
Yeah.
Dan Britt, pick one mini stock driver, pluck him out of the mini stock division, put him into something heavier and faster. Who's it going to be?
I want to see Doug Butler move.
I think a lot of people in Ontario would echo that
I'm curious to
sentiment.
see how well he does, because he knows his cars inside and out, he works on them all the time. He's unbelievably fast for years, which is outstanding. It's amazing. So I want to see if he can apply that into the Thunder car division. It's like the competition's harder, it's closer, a little more rough and tumble, but I'm pretty sure he'd be pretty stout in a Thunder car. He's already got the rear wheel drive thing.
He's got that
He's got the
mindset. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I know he does so much research and so much
Yeah.
work on his equipment. And, you know, you can say what you want about he's won this and he's won that, and you know what? Yeah, because he's put in the time. You can't take that away from the guy.
I'm sure out of the box he'd be pretty good.
Yeah, I've followed him enough times. You know, he does his homework.
I remember when Doug was racing and his father Rick had a Thunder car
Yeah.
at the same time, and I kept thinking, you know,
Like,
oh,
man, just jump
we
in.
got an invitational coming up. Maybe this is the weekend that Doug's going to get in his dad's super stock. And as far as I know, Doug's never raced it. He might have practiced it. I'm not positive.
Yeah, I think he maybe got a bit of seat time, but I don't think he's
I don't think he's ever raced it. So I agree 100%. I'd love to see
I'd
that.
love to see it.
That would be phenomenal. I think another driver that I would love to see move up is probably Corey Young.
Yeah, Corey just built a new car though.
He did build a brand new mini stock, so he's probably not moving up anytime soon. But I think Corey in something faster and heavier could be fairly interesting. Okay, so we're running a little bit long on time. Who's the best driver racing in a division other than mini stock that got their start in a 4-cylinder? Who's your favorite? Let's not say the best. Who's your favorite driver to watch?
They came out of a mini.
Because the mini stocks have been around for over a decade now, well over a decade. So they've been around. They've produced some real good talent. Who's your favorite driver to watch that got their start in a mini stock?
That's a tough one. I'm thinking it's probably got to be Delaware. He ran at Sunset though.
Matt Box started in a 4 fun, then moved to a mini stock, then jumped up into a pro lane model of Delaware. Yeah, he's
So I mean, you go. That's a pretty quick step.
Yeah.
Right.
without question.
So and I mean, he's getting better. I've watched him race a few times. Been down to Delaware, watched him there. Seen him out.
Very clean, very technical.
Yeah. He's probably one that when you said that, he sticks out in my mind as one of those drivers that I remember hearing that. Okay, I don't know if I ever saw him race a mini stock, but definitely have seen him in the pro lane model. And
I think he was starting in the pro lane model right around the time that you were
Yeah.
just breaking into the business. I don't think you guys ever
Crossed
shared the
paths,
Speedway.
yeah.
Yeah, but he's racing full time at Sunset next year in a limited late model. So he bought a car off of Thing Woodside, a very nice car. So
Right.
that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Sort of completes the circle of life with Sunset.
Bring it back.
Starting a 4 fun at Sunset, go elsewhere, come back in a limited late model. Dan, who's the best driver right now racing a heavy car somewhere that started in a mini stock? Who's your
One
favorite?
I like to see, honestly, Brandon Watson.
I think a lot of people
Yeah.
forget that
Man.
Brandon
He
Watson
was in a Mustang.
was in a
Very
Ford
well.
Mustang. He was 13 years old,
Yeah.
probably sat that far away from the steering wheel. It was, 3 foot
Yeah.
nothing, and he destroyed guys.
Yeah.
Like he was up there racing with men,
Yeah.
and he was a phenomenal
Went
mini
through the
stock
late model
competitor.
series and then watching him in the Oscar, man, he makes things happen. It's so unreal to watch him drive.
True.
Just the way he works his way through traffic, he has a problem, works his way back up through traffic. It's pretty impressive.
One of the most calm and collected drivers you see. Like nothing really seems to rattle him on
No.
the racetrack. He
You
gets
can
in the
nudge
seat,
him
he
and
gets
bump
it
him,
done.
whatever.
He's there to work.
Yeah, he's there to win the race.
Yeah.
That's it.
So we got a lot of requests for the mini stock edition of bench racing. I had a lot of people shooting me messages. So there's the mini stock edition. We'll do more. I mean, there's a lot of mini stock guys that I can't wait to sort of sit down and have an iced tea with, and we'll do an episode. I'm headed to the Spyra Racing Shop real soon to do the Spyra edition of bench racing. That's going to be a lot of fun. Guys like Mike Walls have started in mini stock. We got to get them for bench racing. So we're going to keep this going. Thank you so much for the support. Anything else you want to add, Warren,
No.
for your fan base?
No.
You want to give us a sneak peek of 2014?
2014. You're looking at it. It's right behind me.
Brand new car over here. So we're going from back-to-back championships at Sunset.
No.
If the sponsorship can be found, if you want to sponsor Warren Paxton, he's come back for another championship at Sunset.
I'm always.
Let him know.
You can always twist my arm, but at this point, no. We're looking at just casual schedule for next year. We'll see.
Dan, are you going to come back in 2014 or what?
We're gonna start the season off and see how it goes.
There you go. Dan Britt is
we're gonna-
making his return to the Sunset Speedway
we're
mini
gonna
stock
rock this.
division. For Warren Paxton, Dan Britt, I'm Spencer Lewis. It's Bench Racing 13, the mini stock division. Thank you for the support. We'll be back with number 14. We're out for now.